Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the podcast. First and foremost, like every episode I do, I have to thank you for the great feedback I got for the previous episode where all I did was talk horror movies with my good buddy Cam. It's gotten such a great reception. So many people have said that he and I need our own show, which is very flattering and would be a very fun idea, but maybe we'll work on it. Maybe we won't because, he lives in Canada, I live in California, and it took about a month to finally get us to be able to get together and do that episode. So we'll see. It's a little hard, work schedules and just life in general. So maybe we will, maybe we won't. We'll try to work on something at least and get some more of that to you because you guys really loved it, and I'm so happy that it turned out as good as it did, and the reception is as great as it is. It's just awesome. So today I'm just going to crack off a kind of a quick episode for you guys today. I have a little break from life today, so I just thought I'd get this out there because it sounds like a lot of fun, and you already know that I can talk at length, but this seems like it might just be a little unnecessary to drag it out because I feel like that's what I would be doing. But we're going to be doing Halloween reads. That's what this is going to be, and this is just my suggestion on what I think would be fun Halloween reads, Halloween books for you to read during the Halloween season. I get we're midway through October, but I had spent a lot of the time getting that Cam episode together, so I didn't get to do this one as soon as I wanted. I know I'm terrible at scheduling, but hey, some of you guys read 20 books in a month, which is insane to me, so I'm going to record this one, edit it, put it out immediately, and maybe you guys can try to get one or two of these in. There's a couple really long ones in here, so maybe you can't, but hey, Halloween spirit can go as long as you want it to, just saying. So let's get right into this, guys. I'm going to do this by author. I have my Goodreads open. I have a list made. I'm just going to go by author. That way I don't forget anybody or anything. So the first one I have up here is probably one of the most prolific and well-known horror novels of all time, and that is The Exorcist. Now, I had seen the movie dozens of times before I finally read the book, and I wasn't let down by the book, but there wasn't anything new per se, but nonetheless, it was still frightening and scary because it's The Exorcist, man. It's highly regarded, the movie's highly regarded as the scariest movie of all time. The book is regarded as the scariest novel of all time, which again, if you've seen the movie, it's kind of nothing new, but it still is fun to read because obviously you get the extra details in there, and it just adds, even more layers to it. So I gave it a solid 4.5 stars. I only didn't give it that last half star just because, like I said, nothing was really new to me on my end. Nothing was really surprising. So if you haven't seen the movie because you've been too scared or whatnot, try the book. It's just as scary, and this is the limits of your imagination thing. So that'll definitely help. Next up, you may have heard this one, and you may have heard me talk to him on here before, but this is Kin by Keelan Patrick Burke. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on that one because I've talked about it a lot. Basically, kind of a sort of sequel, in a sense, to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What happens when the final girl gets home, kind of thing. And that's what this novel explores, and it's so good. It is so good, guys. You really need to read it. If you haven't, get to anything by Keelan, which actually right now I am reading his short story collection called Dead Leaves. It's got 9 short stories in it, and they've all been good so far. I'm about midway through. It's pretty short. It's barely over 100 pages, but it's very interesting, the range he has with his short stories, even though these are kind of centered to be for the witching season, is what it says. So pretty much anything by Keelan will be good for Halloween. Like Blanky, that one is just, That one is so brutal and good. Sour Candy is a very great Halloween read. You can read that in an hour and some change, maybe. He's got tons of short stories you could read, probably multiple in a day if you really wanted to. If you just wanted to sit down and do nothing but read, you can easily crack off 3 or 4 of his short novels, because they all range between, I'd say, 40 and at most 80 pages. So if you're a speed reader, you can definitely get a lot of those in. So highly recommend Ken. Try out his short story collection, Dead Leaves, which I'm reading right now. Basically anything you find by him, it's going to be perfect for Halloween. Next up, we have also pretty much anything by Nick Cutter as well. But I will recommend The Troop. While it is not my favorite of his novels, it's probably in... He's done 4. It's probably in 3rd place. We all know that Little Heaven is my favorite by him. The Deep is also very good. That one blew me away with how much I liked it. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. But The Troop has more straight up horror Halloween vibes. And I think that one you guys would appreciate a little more in terms of a Halloween type read. And kind of continuing on with Nick Cutter isn't the Nick Cutter name, but it is the same person, because Nick Cutter is a pseudonym for Craig Davidson. And I'm also going to recommend this book called The Saturday Night Ghost Club. It's got ghost in the title. What more do you want for a Halloween read? That one, without giving away too much, the description on Goodreads says, when growing up in 1980s Niagara Falls, a seedy but magical, slightly haunted place, one of Jake's closest confidants was his Uncle Calvin, a sweet but eccentric misfit enamored of occult artifacts and outlandish conspiracy theories. The summer Jake turned 12, Calvin invited him to join the Saturday Night Ghost Club, a seemingly lighthearted project to investigate some of Niagara Falls' more macabre urban myths. Over the course of that life-altering summer, Jake not only fell in love and began to imagine his future, he slowly, painfully came to realize that his uncle's preoccupation with chilling legends sprang from something buried so deep in his past that Calvin himself was unaware of it. So that's kind of just a basic outline for it. And it does go a little deeper. If you know Nick Cutter, there's definitely some underlying themes there. It's a very short novel. It's less than 300 pages. I think I blew through it in about 3 days. Right now, it is only available in Canada, so if you have some means to get it, I had somebody offer to buy and send it to me, and I paid them back for it. So find a Canada friend, have them send it to you. Otherwise, if you live in the U.S., you have to wait until July 9th, 2019 in order to get it. Or you can try to get the Kindle edition, which takes it takes a little working around, kind of fooling Amazon, telling them that you live in Canada when you don't. That's what I did, and I just gave them an address to a Half Price Books as my address, which they didn't care. All they needed was an address. You can do this all online. You don't have to talk to anybody or anything like that. So I just told them, I gave them that address for Half Price Books and bought the Kindle edition, and then immediately just reverted my account back to my normal American account. So definitely check out The Troop by Nick Cutter. Almost anything by Nick Cutter, but definitely check out The Troop. And then when you're done with that, if you want something a little more lighthearted, not as gory anyway, check out The Saturday Night Ghost Club. It's all over Bookstagram right now. It is such a great book. Just read it. All right, so the next up in the author line is Joe Hill. So you could conceivably read anything by Joe Hill, and it'll be good for Halloween. His short story collection, 20th Century Ghosts, would be a good place to start. While I haven't finished that, I've read a few out of there, and it's definitely got some Halloween vibes to it. You can even do Strange Weather, which is an anthology. It's got 4 short stories in it, or 4 novellas, rather. To me, anything spooky, supernatural-ish, anthology-wise, is always good for Halloween time, but that's just me. I love anthologies, so that's definitely a good place to go. Heart-shaped box is all the Halloween vibes. Haunted house, possession kind of feels to it. I'm going to leave it as vague as that if you've never read it because it's so good. It's his first novel, so you can notice it, but how this hasn't been turned into a movie yet is beyond me because it's totally ripe for the picking for a movie. So check out Heart-Shaped Box. And then my favorite book of all time is by Joe Hill, which is Nosferatu. That is, I normally read that around Christmas time because it's set during Christmas time, and the main character where he lives is called Christmas Land, which is not as enticing as it sounds. It is a very bad place. You do not want to go to Christmas Land, but nonetheless, it is a spooky story and is perfect for Halloween and or Christmas time. After I read it the first time, I read it in something like July maybe, and then I immediately read it again in December, and then the following December, last December, I held a read-along for it, and it was very successful. Everyone loved it. Hardly had any bad reviews, if none. So, check out Nosferatu, guys. It's seriously, I wouldn't even call it a horror novel. I would call it a dark fantasy novel, but there are plenty of scares and creepy things in there to put it under the horror category as well. You could also try checking out Joe's comic series that he's done with Gabriel Rodriguez called Lock and Key. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. I'm about midway through it. I'm taking my time with it. I want to fly through it so bad, but since they announced the Netflix series, once they announce a release date for that, and I know how much time I have left, is what's going to determine how much of my pace I pick up to get to the end of it. There's 6 volumes right now, and I believe they may have started. I know they have a bunch of standalones, and I don't know if the story is concluded or not. Luckily, nobody has told me like, oh no, it's over. It's got a definitive end. So I'm hoping it continues, but the box set you can buy right now has 6 volumes, and I'm gonna guess maybe that's it. It's over after those 6 volumes, other than the one-offs and one-shoots they do, but we'll see. And while we're going to keep it in the family here, let's move on to all the Stephen King aplenty books we have here. Again, the first one is an anthology of 4 stories. It's called Full Dark, No Stars. And it should be called Full Dark 5 Stars because this is a 5-star book, in my opinion. All the stories are great. There's one, luckily it's the shortest one. It's maybe 30 pages. The others are at least 100 pages. But that one shorter story, it was fine, but the other 3 in it just outdo it by miles. They're so dark, so grim, so brutal, and a lot of people wouldn't like to reread something like that, but I really want to reread it already. It's just, his writing is top notch in this. Not to say that it's not always, it's Stephen King. I mean, come on. But he went full dark, as the title implies. It's so good. Definitely read it. You can also try out Pet Sematary. That is another good one for Halloween time. He even calls it his scariest novel he's ever done, and I'm totally with that. It's not my favorite of his novels, but I will definitely say it has some scares in there that are ripe for Halloween. That is for sure. If you're a quick enough reader, you can also do It. While that is 1,100 pages long, some people are like, nah, no problem. I can do that in a week, which it took me a month to read It. And I've read it twice now. So to put it in another way, the book It has taken up 2 months of my life, but that's totally fine. If you've seen the movie, the miniseries, you know how great It is. You have the Losers Club, which is probably the greatest group of characters ever. So diverse and just so much fun to read, even though it does have its scary moments. It's very, very, very fun to read. My good friend on Bookstagram, Luke, at luke.at.what.im.reading, is going to be holding a read-along of It in January. I'm definitely going to join that, so that way It can take up another month of my life, which is totally fine with me. And you can do pretty much anything by Stephen King for the most part, like his straight up horror novels. Also, any of his short story collections, Skeleton Crew and Night Shift, which I haven't finished. I've read a bunch out of all of his collections, but have yet to completely finish one of them. I don't think short story collections should be read in one go. You have to kind of do one a day in the middle of whatever else you're reading. It just seems like you would get burnt out on back-to-back short stories for a week on end. But maybe that's just me. Maybe some people love reading them in one go, which is totally fine. So Night Shift is supposed to be his best one from what I hear. It has my favorite short story in there, fittingly called The Boogeyman. Oh my God, I read that story before going to bed, and that was a bad idea. Some books don't scare me to the point where I can't go to sleep, but that one had me on edge for the next hour or so. And then we're going to move on now to one of King's biggest influences and one of my favorite novels of all time, which I just finished for the fifth or sixth time, and that's I Am Legend. Now, the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith is a good movie on its own. Almost nothing like the novel. Not almost nothing like the novel, but whatever the hell they were in that movie, the mutant humans or whatever, if you didn't already know, in the book they are vampires. They are vampires, and they know where he lives, and they come and taunt him every night, and that's what makes it so damn scary. It's not the scariest book ever or anything like that, but it's definitely tense. You kind of white knuckle it a few times, and it's a very short novel. Some of you speed readers could finish this in a day. It's barely 170 pages, but damn, he packs so much into this one novel in 170 pages. So much. Richard Matheson, if I didn't already say that. And again, he's another person who you can pretty much pick up anything by him, and it's perfect for Halloween. He's got plenty of short story collections. He did, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet and The Incredible Shrinking Man and Duel. So check out I Am Legend, and you can also check out a lot of short story collections by Richard Matheson as well. That will also work. And one person I did leave out on accident was Ray Bradbury. I have started Something Wicked This Way Comes. I haven't gotten very far yet, but it's all set around Halloween. It's set in October, and I've heard very many good things about it. There's a blurb on the back from King saying this is Bradbury's masterwork, which has me very excited because I read my very first Bradbury novel just recently, and it was Fahrenheit 451, and it was amazing. The first third quarter-ish, it took a little bit for me to get into it, but once it kicked in, man, those last 100 pages, 120-ish pages, just flew by, man. It was so good. I had read Bradbury's short story collection, The Illustrated Man, in high school, and there was a couple stories in there that have become my favorite short stories of all time. So check out pretty much anything by Bradbury, even if it's not horror centric. He just has that feel for the summer, for the season. So check that out. And then going on to another author that I have interviewed on here is James Newman. I've talked about his book, The Wicked, so much. So I'm not going to go on too much of a tangent on this. It is scary as hell. It is original. It is depraved. It is the best horror novel I've read this year. No joke. No joke. Read it. It's so good. I'm going to pull a Jimmy Fallon on a lot of these books, and just everything is so good. So good. So the last novel I have on here is called The Ruins by Scott Smith. Now, I have professed my fondest love for Scott Smith. His writing is amazing. It still pisses me off that he's only written 2 novels. His first novel was A Simple Plan, which if you guys have ever seen the movie, I feel the movie is far superior than the book. He also wrote the screenplay and was nominated for an Academy Award for it, and he improved on the story so much. The book and the movie are exactly the same until about the halfway mark. It's one of those instances, kind of like, The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones. You get to the same place in the end, but how you get there is different. And at that halfway mark, the book and movie go off and do their own thing until the very, very end, like the last few pages or the last few minutes of the movie. And he improved the story in the movie, I think. The book kind of goes a little off the rails, and just it seems like he got this idea in his head, like, oh, hey, how much more bad shit can we throw in here just for the hell of it? Whereas the movie, it seems like he got there a little more organically, whereas in the book, it just seems like he kind of just shoved it in there. But that's not the novel I'm talking about. What I am talking about is The Ruins, his second and final novel. If he's ever going to write anything again, who knows? But The Ruins is so good. It is a very bloody, hardcore horror novel, but it's very suspenseful. The characters are good, and there's no chapters. It's just nonstop from the time you read that first page to the very end. It's nonstop. There's just the little breaks, but not actual chapters, which forces you to want to keep reading. And you will want to keep reading. That is for sure. For those of you who don't know what it's about, just a real quick description of it. This group of friends goes to Mexico, I believe, and they go to these ruins where like the Mayans or something like that were known to live. And they get there and they soon find out there's an evil presence. And that's all I'm going to tell you. You have to read it to know what happens next, and you will want to know what happens next. That is for damn sure. Let me just put it this way. Vines have never been so scary, and I am not talking about the app. Just think on that. So those are just my suggestions. Obviously, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just the books I've read and know to be tried and true, to have the Halloween feel and vibe, and just you have a good time reading these books during Halloween. Whereas I feel like any other time you might just be like, man, I'm really depressed after reading this, but that's just me. I like reading these type of books all year round, even if they make you feel bad. That's the point of them. You know what you're getting into. But for some reason, when it's the Halloween season, it makes it more fun. And that's what Halloween's about, man. It's about embracing all the scary stuff and not just candy. It's just about the fun of embracing horror, which not many people do, other than us little group of sickos, which is why I like all of you and you guys like listening to this, because one of my highest downloaded episodes was my horror novel recommendations, which I could not believe that. I was so surprised how many people were like, oh man, I want some good horror novel suggestions from this guy. So hopefully, like I said, this is just a quick one, so hopefully you guys will like my suggestions. If you've ever read any of them, let me know. If you felt I left any out that should have been in here, email me, comment, whatever, and I will, add those on to a post or something about it. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this list. Now, I don't normally do this. I may start doing this intermittently, but I've noticed I do have some reviews on iTunes. They're all 5 stars, which is amazing. I don't normally ask for reviews, but since I'm getting them, if you do like this, definitely go review it on iTunes or whatever it is you're listening on. I don't care. I'm not picky. If you want to give me 1 star, that's fine. It's your rating. Do what you want. I would just like to have it just so I could have that feedback and know what you guys are enjoying, what you're not enjoying. Just let me know. Or you can even just email it to me. ilovethispod@gmail.com. You guys know where to find me on everything. That's why you're here. I appreciate you all. I love you all. You guys are amazing. I have some more stuff coming up this month that you guys are really going to enjoy. But I just wanted to throw this one to you guys just really quick so you guys can have this list out there and ready to go. So thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are so awesome. Hope you have a happy Halloween season, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.